Today's video is going to be about BK Barbie from the Rollin 30s. I'm finna break down how she was accused of killing somebody 1 hour after a Rollin 30 member was shot and how she was only 16 at the time of the murder. I'm finna also break down how the Rollin 30s plan on killing her right after. Let's get it. February 7, 2010, the Rollin 30s would be throwing a party. At around 3 a.m., Black P-Stone member snuck in. He would then shoot a Rollin 30s member. The person that got hit was Lil Shady Boy. Right after, Barbie and 3 others would jump into an SUV and drive to the Black P-Stone territory. One person will be wearing a GPS ankle monitor. They would get there around 4:30 in the morning. When they pulled up, they would see 2 people walking. Now, even though they was not from BPS, they still stopped and asked, "Hey, where you from?" Because one of the dudes were wearing all red, from red chucks all the way down to a St. Louis Cardinals hat. Now, a reminder, Black P-Stone originated in Chicago, but in Los Angeles, they're Bloods. And their main logo will be the St. Louis Cardinals hat. Now, as you can see, BPS and Rollin 30 share a border, and that would make them the main enemies. Now, the shooting would happen in what they call a white circle, which will be between the Rollin 20 Bloods and the BPS Biddy Stones. Right after that encounter, Barbie and the 30s will drive away and turn into an alley in which they would disappear. 2 men who went by Jackson and Owens would continue to walk down the street. That's when they would see the 2 men and a woman pop out of nowhere. One person would ask the dude in the red, "Hey, where you from?" Jackson, the one in the red, showed his tats and responded, "I don't bang." The 3 would whisper and talk. Jackson, the one in the red, would turn to walk away, and that's when the shots started ringing. They shot him in the back of the head. The man that was with Jackson tried to run away. They all shot him. He was shot in the forehead, but he would later survive. Barbie and the group of the Rollin 30s would shoot at least 18 times at the 2 dudes. The man that died was later identified as Darnell Jackson. At the time, he was only 22 years old. This case was cold for a while, but eventually, somebody named Gene Paleosis was arrested on an unrelated case. He was also a member of the Rollin 30s. Now, just when you think your friends are solid, here goes the bullshit. Now, as you can see where I'm probably about to go with this, Gene wanted leniency on his unrelated case. So, yep, you figured it out. He decided to snitch. He would tell officers that Allen arrived at his home at 11 a.m. that day in a Chevy Traverse. He would describe how some blood snuck into the party and shot Lil Shady Boy. He then explained how Barbie and the others went to the BPS hood to retaliate. That's a damn shame. Gene then explained that he seen the 2 men crossing the 10 freeway over the bridge and followed them. He would then describe how the street was a dead end and that they went back up the street and parked. After Gene gave the statement, they arrested Allen for murder. He will be the first person to get arrested. Now let me just give y'all a recap. Remember the dummy with the ankle monitor? Well, yeah, that was Allen. Now let's not forget, this ankle monitor would place him at the scene of the crime. That night, the police would confront him about the GPS tracking information. Now this is where shit get tricky and a whole lot of messy. And this shows you what type of games the police play. During Allen's interrogation, they tell him that they have information about somebody telling about the shooting. They don't say any names, they just throw Barbie pictures on the table. Like anybody else, the first thing y'all gonna think is Barbie snitching. But that wasn't the case. Now at this time, Allen was one of the shot callers of the Rollin 30s. Now unfortunately, the 30s would turn their back on Barbie just a few hours later. Allen would make a jail call to a woman on the streets. That was also recorded, like every other jail call. He stated, "They know everything." He would tell the woman to tell Maxwell, do what needs to be done with Barbie. A few days go by, Allen and Maxwell would speak. Now they're talking in code. Maxwell wanted to confirm that the information that he received from the lady was actually valid, and that Allen actually did order it. Allen's response was simply, "All day, it's on my lead." Maxwell would respond, "Say no more." Allen then responded, "It's in your hands. Do what you need to do." The police would then bring in a gang expert. He would state Allen, who was the older member of the gang and well-respected member, was authorizing a hit on Barbie, and Maxwell would be the one to handle it. Now let me remind y'all, Barbie was still only 16 at the time, and her co-defendants were all 24. A few weeks after the first arrest, Burton, another co-defendant, would be driving around with Gene, who was an informant, and he would say, "This is where we killed them Bloods." Around that time, Barbie was bragging about the retaliation shooting to somebody named Lanisha. and she would then tell the police about it. Damn, y'all can't keep y'all mouth closed. For the last co-defendant, whose last name was Maxwell, who was also hired to kill Barbie, was arrested because he decides to tell someone named Travion Francis that he had just shot somebody in the head. Travion would then give that information to the police. Almost a year later after the murder, they finally all have been arrested, starting with Barbie. Barbie will be arrested February 23rd, 2011, now the age of 17. Everybody was hit with one account of murder and one account of attempted murder. They all sat in county for about 4 years. The trial started in 2015. During the opening statement, prosecution would play the second recording between Allen and Maxwell to take out Barbie in front of the entire courtroom. This would be the first time that Barbie heard the two men that she looked up to so much planned on killing her. The evidence they had against the two was solid and strong. Allen, who was the mastermind behind everything, the man with the ankle monitor. Allen, at the time, would have his tracking device, which would record every movement. They also had statements from Gene telling the timeline, given that Allen arrived at his home, what type of car he arrived in, and that was the same car that they were looking for. He would describe the retaliation that took place, the time, the location, and the BPS hood. They had a statement from Lanisha about Barbie bragging about catching a body and how the shooting took place. During the trial, Lanisha and Travion would try to recant their statements, saying that what they told the police was all lies. Barbie's argument against the statement that was made to Lanisha was that she was 16 at the time. In her mind, she was not there. Her age, she was undermined. And even the evidence they had about her, bragging about her involvement, should be dismissed. On May 8, 2015, Barbie would take a plea deal, but they reduced her murder charge to a voluntary manslaughter charge. Barbie would get 16 years, 6 years for manslaughter and 10 years for gun enhancement. Maxwell, on the same day, took a plea deal. His charges also reduced to voluntary manslaughter. He would get 11 years, which was the least out of everyone. On August 28, 2015, Allen, the mastermind behind everything, never took a plea deal. He was sentenced to 40 years to life. Although they know he was not the shooter, he drove the car, but he never stepped foot out the car. They threw enhancements on top of the attempted murder. He would get 15 years to life, so a max of 55 years to life. 2 years later, in 2017, the last co-defendant would take a plea deal, just like the first two, and his sentence was reduced to voluntary manslaughter. He would receive 21 years in jail, 11 years for manslaughter, and 10 years for gun enhancement. Now this is the shady story of BK Barbie from the Rollin 30s. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Comment, like, and subscribe.